Okay, fellas, I know we're all really excited about the end of season awards coming up, but before then, we're taking on Lazio in the Europa League at home. We weren't that bad against these guys last time, so let's just see what we can do, and hopefully we can keep ourselves in this race for third, okay? Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 65 of Husavik Heroes here on Shaun Does FM. I hope you are doing well, and coming up in today's episode we've got Lazio at home in our Europa League group, and off the back of that we have the end of season review for the 2026 season domestically here in Iceland. So if you are looking forward to this episode, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the series here on the channel, also remember to hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on as well. It is greatly appreciated. But if you missed the episode at the end of last week, I'll leave a link to that above my head in the top right corner. You can see there above this current match week that we are about to enter the fourth match week of the group stages of the Europa League, that it's a rematch from that match week. We did lose 2-0 to Lazio over in Italy, but as I said before, I did feel like it wasn't actually that bad of a performance. And in the other game, Atletico Madrid are taking on Midtjylland. Hopefully Atletico can get a result there to try and keep Midtjylland down just above us, and potentially if we can get a decent result here at home, we could go above those guys and put ourselves in the box seat for the Conference League spot heading into the finale of the Europa League group stages coming up in tomorrow's episode, where we are taking on Atletico Madrid away from home, followed up by Midtjylland at home. That last game might be must win. It's a game I am expecting to win, and that could be the deciding factor in where we do finish in this group table. But we've played no games since the end of yesterday's episode, with the domestic season having been finished. Pretty much all of our squad is available for this upcoming game as well, so we'll come back shortly from the Laugarda and see what we can do at home against Lazio in the Europa League. And here are the team sheets for the game in today's episode. We are on the left being at home, first choice 11, with Diaz having returned in the last game, that away game against Lazio, from his injury. And it's a pretty good bench that we do have as well. We have put Goodness on the bench as our backup striker ahead of João Pedro. We might get to that off the back of the end of season review. Just a few things that I might look to tweak going into the start of next season once we do get through these group stages of the Europa League. But before we get into that, we'll get through this game. Lazio on the right-hand side, a team which looks fairly similar to the one that we did take on at the end of last week, with Icardi up front and Molo. Those two caused us quite a few problems in that away league. Hopefully, though, we can show something a little bit better here at home. 13 minutes gone. We have the first highlight of this game, a goal kick we look to play out from the back. But the first thing we need to bring you guys is a score update there. Bottom left corner, Molone has opened the scoring for Midtjylland, and that means that we probably actually need to get a win out of this game. Hopefully Atletico Madrid can come back in that one, but that is not the start that we were after. Already in a position where we might actually need to win this game against the team we did lose to before. A bit of vertical ping pong, it is fair to say at the moment, just booting it to each other's goalkeepers, and hopefully we can get on the scoreboard sooner rather than later. And while that's happened, it's actually now 2-0 Midtjylland. Good chance here for Rubio, tries to chip the goalkeeper, comes off the crossbar, but it's all happening in this group. 2-0 Midtjylland, still 0-0 here though after 16 minutes. 27 minutes gone, and we are on the attack here. Second highlight of the game, still 2-0 to Midtjylland, and that would be a surprising result against the team who are dealing with this group pretty comfortably at the moment. Nice ball there for Nygaard, but the shot straight at the goalkeeper. We will need a goal here soon if we want to keep ourselves in the hunt for third, because as I said, Midtjylland winning that other game does not suit us. Corbo with a good header, but unfortunately it is straight at Galini, and at the half-hour mark it is still 0-0 here at the Laugarda. And that is half-time here in Iceland in our fourth Europa League group stage game. It's been a pretty good half from us, but unfortunately no reward for that play. But so far Lazio haven't really threatened us, which is nice, at least from the highlights that we have seen. Hopefully that remains the same in the second half, and we can pick up a goal or two, because the result in the other game means that we might need to be winning this one. 50 minutes gone, early free kickers. Atletico Madrid have got a goal back early in the second half there in Madrid, giving us a little bit of hope there. And that's a nice ball there through for Nygaard. Can he put it away? Another great chance there for our right winger, but a good save from Galini. He has kept them in this game so far as the Italian goalkeeper. We do have a corner off the back of that, and it's Mbuyamba who gets his head on the end of it, and that is exactly what we need, especially with that scoreline as it currently is in Madrid, and that's exactly what we needed after a pretty good first half. We do have some reward for it early in the second half. Good chance to Nygaard. We get the corner, and Nicolucci Caviglia picks out Mbuyamba at the near post. 1-0 Volsungur, 10 minutes after halftime. 65 minutes gone. We do have a throw in here. So far, all the highlights have been in our favour. Long may that continue. Trying to find Cadena there at the near post. Diaz, but puts that back in for Caviglia. Tries to curve that top right corner just over the bar. And it still remains 1-0. 71 minutes gone. We do have a highlight here. A clearance from the Lazio goalkeeper. But we do get that back thanks to Mbuyamba. And we now look to play out through him. Although he passes that back to Sierra Fellini, but this has been a really good performance from us so far, somewhat justifying how I felt at the end of yesterday's game. Didn't feel like we had played that badly based on the stats that we saw, and we're showing it today. Nice ball there for Rubio. Great chance. Comes off the woodwork. We've hit the woodwork a few times in this game, but it remains 1-0 with just under 20 minutes left. And up to the 78-minute mark, it's time for us to make a few substitutions here with players down to red hearts. Cadena's on a 6.4 as well, so Bjarkason can come on for him, and Arnason is the other player down to a red heart. Sakularak on for him. 12 minutes left, still up by 1-0. And shortly off the back of that first substitution with 9 minutes left, we are now going to make our last one. Nicolucci Caviglia is down to a red heart. Gavioli can come on for him, looking to hold on to this lead here in the last 10 minutes. And shortly off the back of our last substitution, we do have a throw-in, albeit this time from deep inside our own half, but we do keep possession. Hopefully, we can hold it here and make sure that Lazio continue to not really have anything getting shown in their favour in this game. And Sakularak, fresh on the pitch, plays the ball over there for Nygaard. Not a good one, but luckily the header back does fall to Gavioli. Plays out for Rubio. What can he do? Tight angle this time. Benjamin Rubio slots it away, but was he onside? That could be a massive goal. The scoreline in the other game, I believe, is still 2-1 to Midtjylland in Madrid, and the goal is awarded. We go 2-0 up. It's an exact replica of the score in yesterday's episode, but this time in our favour. Good work from Gavioli there to get the ball back for us. Rubio takes it around the goalkeeper, beats him at his near post, and we are now in a little bit of a safer position here. 2-0 up at home against Lazio. 88 minutes gone. Late highlight in this one. A throw-in again in our favour. Lazio do get the ball back, but that clearance will fall to Leandro Diaz, and we will play out here somewhat from the back around the halfway line. Corbo plays a long ball for Bjarkason. Great chance here. He misses the target. We're going to have 3 minutes of added time, but this has been a really good performance from us, and lucky it was, because in the other game, I still think Midtjylland have completely upset the apple cart with a win there in Madrid. So 2 upsets potentially in this match week, and that means that we actually did need to win this game. So thankfully we did. Really good performance, no highlights in Lazio's favour at all, which when you consider some of the names in their team is a very good performance from us. We'll get through the post-match and see what that does to the group table. And thankfully we did pick up a win there, as I said, because Midtjylland did hold on for a 2-1 win in Madrid, and that opens this group right up going in to tomorrow's episode. It is now a 4-horse race for those spots. If we can win both games in tomorrow's episode, we could actually potentially qualify top. So it certainly closed the gaps up in this group with both us and Midtjylland winning in our match week of upsets. But thankfully we do get the job done there, because otherwise we would be in a ton of bother at the bottom of the group, still bottom of the group. But we do give ourselves a chance of still trying to make our way into the knockouts of a European competition, thanks to that 2-0 win there over Lazio. We'll come back shortly with the end of season review. And here we are for the end of season review for the 2026 season, domestically for the main part, with the fact that it falls at a very inconvenient time with the way that Europe does fall here in the save. It will make our way forward, having picked up the quadruple for the second straight season here domestically. First, a look at the transfers that we did make. Signing of the season on a free was Sergio Cadena. He picked up a 7.3 rating after starting most of the games once he did arrive, and he has been a decent option for us out on the left-hand side, started the season off in very good goal-scoring touch, picking up 14 goals and 7 assists. Hard to argue with that output that we have had for that free transfer for the young left winger. The other transfers that we did make, of course, we did bring Bjorn Boggy Goodness onto the club on a permanent deal. We probably overpaid for the Icelandic striker, but being homegrown in nation and of quite good quality, I did feel like it was quite a good bit of business just to help with our registration for European competitions. Just started the one game for us this season and picked up a hat-trick, so maybe he's a player that we need to have a little bit more faith in future seasons, being only 22 years old. The other players that we did pick up were around the halfway stage of the season before we did get into Europe this time around. That was Samuel Afosu for £85,000 from RB Leipzig. Only 7 starts for him, but he's a player who will get more game time now that Kurt Shaw's contract is about to expire. And Philippe West as well, being a defensive midfielder, he can fill in where Noam Bonnet would be now that his contract is also about to expire and he is heading back to France, only spending £500,000 on the young Swedish defensive midfielder. 1 goal and 1 assist with a 7.3 rating for him as well. Eugenio Roselli was a player who we picked up on a free transfer like Cadena, having previously spent some time at Inter Milan. That was actually quite a good bit of business because we did have a left-back injury crisis not too long off the back of that, and he has been staying for us while Leandro Diaz has been out with injury. Done a decent job for us at left-back while that injury did take place, so that was a good bit of business. In the end, Mikel Bedrzicki is a player who might step up into the first team as one of our backup centre-backs next season, the young 18-year-old who does have decent potential 2-star current ability, 1.87 metres tall. Hopefully, he can work his way into the team next season, having not made any appearances for us this time around. In terms of transfers out, we did make a few. Christian Coffey, he left us for Hafnarfjordur, having a decent season over at those guys. Wilson Isidore left fairly early on in the season for £65,000. We have a few quite good younger right-wing options now, so we decided to let him go back to France. Hugo Dupont on a free transfer went to HK, one of our 3rd or 4th choice left-backs at the time, and he's getting the odd bit of game time there in behind the quite good left-back whose contract is about to expire. That could be a player who we do look to bring into the club if no one comes in for him. And then a few players who got a little bit less game time, although Boscolo Shio had some decent seasons here a wee while ago now, but he has gone back to Italy for £35,000, not getting the game time that he was after here, and he has done a decent job since going back to Italy as well. And so poor old Gerson's probably the other one worth making a note of, one of our homegrown club players, 28-year-old right winger, come striker, but was getting next to no game time here and seems to be getting a little bit more of that at Viking Arakia, but getting £1,000 for a player who really wasn't worth anything, I feel like was a good deal. And we now do have a few more of those homegrown club players coming through, and especially going into the start of the next European season as well. It should be an area which is not as big of a deal as it has been over the first few years of us being in Europe. In the save and loans out, we have got a number of promising players out on loan. Some of these guys I will try and get back once we do get into the start of the new year, namely Frederick Larson. Not too sure if I made the right decision by loaning this guy out, actually, because if we have a look at his current report, he's gone up to a 4-star rated winger and looks like he's having a very good time at Landers in the Conference League. So he's a player who we will try and get back for the second phase of Europe if we do make it that far. He looks like he could be in line to become our starting left winger, potentially over Sergio Cadena. That might mean that someone like Bjarki Barkason becomes a fringe player who we might be able to get rid of if we do have enough players trained in nation. If we make our way down, the other player out on loan who we're probably going to bring back for the start of next season now that we have moved Arnason into that starting Mazzala role over Sviderski in that most previous game, and it did seem to work as well. He's a player whose quality has just been a little bit too hard to ignore of late, so he's now our starting Mazzala over Sviderski, but that does mean that we do need a backup right winger. I think Pat Ainscoe of the USA, currently out on loan at Minnesota in the MLS, will get him back at the start of the new year, and he can be that backup to Patrick Nygaard. So those are the 2 players currently out on loan who we will probably look at doing something with come next season, as well, of course, as maybe someone like Mikel Bedrzicki, who we saw before, who could step in to a backup centre-back role alongside a Fosu as well. But on the whole, I think some decent transfer business, but we'll get to it off the back of this review, I think. But what we might need to do going into next season after tomorrow's episode is potentially look at bringing in a bit more youth in that backup team, a few players with a little bit more potential, as it was something that was pointed out to me a week or so ago down in the comments. And having a look at that backup team, I do think we could use a little bit more youth and try and get some players who can put some pressure on our current first team starters and develop their way into the first team. In terms of the competitions, this is pretty cruisy stuff. We did a really good job, yet again, not quite as good as last season, obviously picking up 2 losses in the league to both of the Nats teams away from home by scorelines of 2-1, but in the end we did still win this very comfortably by 13 points, with HK Reykjavik and Nats KR being the teams who will make their way into the Conference League second qualifying round for next season. Hopefully those teams can do a better job than they did this season, and we can actually get some more coefficient points out of those teams. In the Champions League, we did lose in the final playoff. For some reason, they're delighted that we've reached the group stage, even though we didn't, but not too bad of a run there in the Champions League, albeit we definitely didn't quite perform as well as we did last season when we did win that playoff and made our way into the Champions League group stage, which you can see the last 2 games that we did play last season up at the top. And off the back of that, this season we have ended up in the Europa League, and so far, as you have seen, it's been a little bit of a struggle, but that win over Lazio hopefully will give us a chance to try and at least finish in third to make our way into the Conference League playoffs. The Malka Bickerin, we won mostly comfortably, a few hairy results here and there again against the Nats teams, but we did get the job done thanks to a 3-1 win in the final, winning that competition for the 3rd time. In the Save Super Cup, we won that in extra time in the end over HK2. All that was a very tight game, thankfully getting the job done thanks to a late Mbiyamba goal, I think that was. And the Delta Bakar, we won that reasonably comfortably at the start of the season, albeit again took extra time against Nats to make our way into the final, but for the most part, a good performance, especially considering that we were playing Europa League knockouts for a little bit of the early stages of that competition. But another pretty successful season here at Volsungur, despite the fact that we just did drop ever so slightly European-wise, going from the Champions League group stages to the Europa League group stages. The biggest win was 8-0 in the Islands Dealden against Nats KR. That was a big league win, probably our best performance of the season. As suggested, the match to remember apparently was a 4-0 win away from home against Proto Reykjavik. Not too memorable for me, but that's what the game reckons, with a good first half effort there, with all 4 goals coming then. And our goal of the season was scored by Nicolusi Caviglia, the club captain, in the Super Cup final. A goal which did get the scoreline back to 1-1 early on in the second half. A clearing header there from one of the HK defenders, and Nicolusi Caviglia from outside the box curves that really nicely into the top right corner, and that helped us on our way to winning that through a Yao Pedro goal. In fact, it was in extra time after Mbiyamba scored in injury time to take that game into extra time, where we did have the chance to win it. Over to the finances, everything in this has gone up except for competition prize money, which is not unexpected considering that this year we were in the Europa League group stages instead of the Champions League group stages. You get a considerably less amount of money for that, so that is not surprising at all. Our best 11, we'll get into this shortly because this is never right, and yet again there's a few players here who don't really look like they deserve their place in this. We'll get onto that shortly. And now over to the club awards. The fans player and young player of the season goes to Patrick Nygaard. I think that's the 2nd season in a row that Nygaard has been our player of the season here at Volsungur. He has been really good since coming in. Has the young right winger, as you saw earlier, signing of the season, Kadena, goal of the season, Nicolusi Caviglia. The top goal scorer was Yao Pedro, thanks to his work in the league. Most assists went to Nygaard with 18, also most player of the matches. Highest average rating in Mbiyamba, yet again he has been superb for us at the back. And we make our way over to the competition awards. The top division player of the year was Yao Pedro, thanks to those 22 goals, and Patrick Nygaard picking up the young player of the year for the top division to go alongside his club awards. And then the record breakers, most league goals by a player in a season. Yao Pedro with 13, a hat-trick for goodness song gave him the most goals by a player in a league match. Nygaard's assist record for the season is a new one. We had a new youngest player with Atlas on stepping out late in the season at centre back just before we did get into the Europa League group stage game, and our highest transfer fee paid was for Goodness on, as I said, probably a player who we should be giving a little bit more game time to next season, especially considering that the one game he started, he did score a hat-trick in, and that wraps up the in-game end of season review. But we do have a few more things that we do need to cover off. The signings of the season for the top division, it has gone to a nuts player, but if we make our way down, we do have a few players on this list for the first time, both Kadena and Afosu. Not too sure why they're not ranked a little bit higher. I suppose it's because they didn't make as many appearances as the person who did win the award, but I think it's fair to say that our signing's probably a little bit better than that one, but I think that's just how it rolls with appearances in the league. And then we make our way over to the overall best 11, and a new player making his way into this team is Swiderski, albeit he only makes his way onto the bench. So our starting 11 for the best 11 is Serafalini in goal, a back four of Diaz, Shaw, Mbiyamba and Carlos. So that's more or less reflecting what we do currently have here at the club, just with Corbo stepping in for Shaw maybe next season once he gets another season under his belt, and once Shaw does leave us, we've still got a little bit of an interesting midfield here with Lillamosa, Gavioli and Nicolucci Caviglia. Although Swiderski has now made his way onto the bench, so might be coming for one of those spots in the next few years. Ledsong keeps his left wing spot with Patrick Nygaard, now our best right winger, and Yao Pedro, with all those goals that he is scoring domestically, keeps his spot as our striker of choice in the best 11 so far. The likes of Benjamin Rubio not quite delivering enough to make their way into the substitute area of this best 11. And we'll make our way over to the club info page and have a look at our best 11 from this past actual season as well. We go back, and that looks like a more sensible best 11 than what we got in the end of season review before. That's pretty much the team that we've been putting out for most of the season. The only players there who aren't really part of our first choice 11, you got Sekularak there as the Mazzala instead of Swiderski or Arneson. You got Bjarkason there at left wing instead of Kadena, and you've got Yao Pedro up front, which, to be fair, it's hard to argue with when you compare the goal output between him and Rubio, but not much between those two, I think, based on what they've done this season. But most of our first choice players in the best 11 is good signs indeed, and that wraps up most things that we need to cover off here for the end of season review. You can see there a little article about where some of the players from the best 11 are. Baru is now gone to Beerschot. Isidore, of course, we did that transfer before. Bonnet has gone to Grenoble. Dordovic on the bench, and that is now at Spartak Subotica. And Bjarki Baldason, our old centre-back, who got a wonderful own goal to help us secure the unbeaten season last year. He is at one of the Nats teams, while Stefansson has gone to Pour down in the second division. And we do have our first article that's come up since we've started this save about the squad of 2021, where they are now. You can see there's a few players here still at the club, Chris Jansson and Stein Grimson. That is solely because, of course, they are homegrown at club players, so we do need to keep hold of them for continental registration. But you can see there likes of Bitter Gecko, Olgerson, McQueen at Wickham Wanderers, a player who I don't really remember, truth be told, but he was a right back. Not too sure how much he actually did play for us. He played 11 games, so played a fair bit of the league season before he left for Exeter C back then, and has now made his way around to Wickham. So a few blasts from the past here. We've got Sigtrygson, who is at field care. Of course, he was a young goalkeeper coming through. Bjarki Baldason, as we would have went through before. Richard Bakary went to Havant and Waterlooville. And Stefan Spasic, one of our long-time defensive midfielders here, has gone to FK Zemun. Alva Baldason, Izgid Jansson, Daniel Hryderson, a few players who had a little bit of time here to shine at Volsungur, and a few more further down. So interesting to see where some of those players from our first season of this save have ended up. But that will do the end of season review part of this episode. We'll just go and quickly have a look at our squad, because I think this is actually a good time to just maybe have a look at where I am going to look to improve this squad at the start of the next transfer window, which will be at the start of next year, just because if we did this in tomorrow's episode, it could get a little bit busy with 2 games coming on. Looking at our current first choice 11, most of these players are about the age profile and the potential profile that I would like, so I'm not too disappointed with this current first choice 11. A few players wanted by clubs. Leandro Diaz still wanted by a Portuguese club. Maybe he's a player that we do need to look at moving on if the right offer comes in for him. And Benjamin Rubio wanted by Sevilla. Hopefully we can keep hold of the young Spanish striker. But if we make our way over to the second 11 and have a look at the age profile of this squad, I think this is potentially where we might have to look at changing a few things. You can see here we've got quite a few young players currently at the club. We've got a young goalkeeper currently unregistered who we might give some more game time to for the upcoming season. But you start to look through the back, we've got Mbeba, who's 26 years old, not much potential. So maybe that's where someone like Bedrzicki can come into the team for next season. The midfield, we've got Gavioli as our current box-to-box midfielder, 26 years old. Not too sure if he's going to improve too much. So maybe we need to go looking for a young box-to-box midfielder to come in for Gavioli and who can start to put some pressure on club captain Nicolucci Caviglia. We've got Sakularak here, who to be fair isn't actually our current backup Mazzala, because that would be Swiderski now that he has been dropped down for Arneson in the first choice 11. But you can see he's 24 years old, so not quite as old, still has a little bit of potential, but maybe we should also look for a more high potential player in the midfield. So that midfield could be an area backup wise, which we do look to strengthen. I think Goodness On is a player who's going to be staying as the backup striker for us next season at 22 years old, because if we make our way down just a little bit, Yao Pedro, who has been a superb servant to the club, getting quite close to 100 goals for the club, I believe. He is now 30 years old, 2.5-star current ability, as well as potential. Maybe it's time that we need to look at shifting on Yao Pedro and try and bring through some of those younger strikers that we do have at the club. So we might just look at freshening up some areas of this backup team. Of course, bringing Frederick Larsen back from loan to replace Bjarkason at 20 years old as well will freshen this team up a little bit and make it quite a young team, which can develop and start putting pressure a little bit more on those players who are currently starting in that first choice 11. So those are kind of the areas that I am looking at in terms of the upcoming transfer window. We'll probably look at strengthening that backup midfield area so they can put a bit more pressure on the current starting 11. But I think that does it for today's episode. We had the end of season review, a little bit of a preview of what we might do in the upcoming transfer window off the back of tomorrow's episode, and of course a big win against Lazio, which does mean we are still in the hunt to get out of our group in the Europa League. And we will come back tomorrow for the last two games of that group stage. We are taking on, first off, Atletico Madrid away from home. That game potentially not looking quite as scary now after Midtjylland did pick up points away from home. And off the back of that, we do take on Midtjylland, and hopefully by then we do still have a chance of at least finishing third in our group. If we manage to somehow win both of those games, we should really be making our way into the knockout stages of the Europa League, but it's going to be heavily dependent on the results of the other games. We could still finish anywhere from first to fourth in this group. But if you did enjoy today's episode, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying this series here on the channel, also remember to hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on as well. And until tomorrow, where we will hopefully make our way out of this Europa League group of death, thank you very much for watching. Keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.